what can I do as a beginner to convince my friends that Aikido is an effective martial art?
Why do we need to convince other people? This is a question that everything and everyone struggles with. You must justify why it is you do the thing that you do. It's that confirmation bias. I'm right. I bought this thing and I am right in purchasing it because I am smart and I am good enough. So let me explain it to you why you should choose this thing too. But that's that thing. It's like you're wanting to justify to others that your decision is a right decision.
But for some people, Aikido, the way that Aikido works can be difficult to understand in the beginning. And so this question, I think, is very apt for the beginner in Aikido to say how this counters a punch or how this counters a kick, or just what some of the basic movements in Aikido are because they're based on swordsmanship, because they're based on certain other techniques, they don't look like karate, or they don't look like some other basic martial arts moves, even though in the end they serve the same purpose. And so I think that beginners are uniquely challenged in trying to explain some of the basic exercises, in a sense.
So if you don't really understand Aikido and you don't really understand the techniques, you can't really explain it to people. But if, let's say, you do wrestling, if you do like a striking art, karate, boxing, wrestling, even judo, you can do something to someone right away to show them, oh, Aikido works, right. Judo works, that. But Aikido is not like that, and that's because Aikido has a different philosophical base, right? Aikido creates the techniques in a different way. Aikido creates the techniques with the movement of your body. Judo mechanically breaks the person's balance. Karate mechanically knocks the person out. Aikido, you're trying to catch timing and spacing. You're trying to understand how the body works in order to use that against these other people. And so when you've just started Aikido, you're like, oh no, it's like this thing, grab my wrist. But then Aikido's trying to get you to not go into a street fight. Right? So you win all the battles that you never get into. But then the thing is that there is almost no way to convince another person to change their mind. That's called salesmanship. The modern person, the Gendai person, wants you to explain every little thing to them.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not how you get good at a martial art. That's not how you get good at anything. You get good by doing it and doing it and doing it, and then the economy, when you economize your motion, your movement, when you're doing calligraphy, you start out like this, or you start out doing like this, and then later on, it's just this. Like that. But you have to learn to do that. Someone points it out to you, but you have to learn to do that thing. And so the taste of the day is for the teacher to explain everything. But in reality, in order to learn how to drive a car well, you must drive a car a lot.
In your experience, this feeling that the beginners have the need to explain to their friends, and maybe that's really a need to explain to themselves, that they're projecting out onto needing to explain to their friends. How long does that questioning period last? If you can get past it.
It's almost forever.
Almost forever.
Because you have to either have done it on someone to realize its effectiveness, or hurt someone to realize its effectiveness, or you learn to let it go.
So do you think people eventually gravitate to the martial art that corresponds to some set of personal preferences?
Definitely, because you want the thing which validates you and gives you the thing you wanted. But then you get to this place, I mean, gosh, how long did it take it took, and this is a bad thing to say, it took close to 30 years to let go of the desire to prove to others, that Aikido is effective. Like the other day, a student said, how would you, when the student was asking this question, another student asked, would you ever go on the Joe Rogan podcast and
debate Joe Rogan?
Yeah, debate Joe Rogan and convince Joe Rogan. I said, I would love to.
Right.
I would love to. I mean, his stand-up is funny, and
he's expressed opinions on Aikido before.
And his podcast is very good. But I said, Joe Rogan doesn't want me on there. But the thing is, it's not that Joe Rogan doesn't want me or not want me. It's that Joe Rogan wants to say things which are sensational, because sensational things make you money.
Right.
So his true feeling about Aikido might not even be this way, but saying a certain thing enables you to make a certain amount of money, right? No one, if it's bland and kind of, medium rare, no one really wants it. But if it's sensational and controversial, everybody wants to listen and, oh, what's he going to say?
Yeah.
How's he going to say it? Oh yeah, he is crazy. Oh yeah, Aikido is fake. But the thing is that, and then this person asked, what would you do if he wanted to spar with you or fight you? And I go, well, why would he want to do that? And she said, well, so you could show him that it's effective. And I would just say, it's effective. You have to believe me. And he goes, well, what if he wants to beat you up? And I would just say, why do you want to beat me up? Okay, so you could tell everyone you beat me up? Just tell everybody you beat me up. Just go ahead and tell me, because I don't care. I don't care. Oh, well, you're fake. You're ineffective. It's not real. I don't care. I don't have time to convince people that this is real, this is effective, this is good, this is right, this is just, this is the. There's too many things in the world. You like peanut butter? I don't like peanut butter. Let's just leave it at that. You want to go hang out and just talk about life? I bet you if you talk to Joe Rogan, it is really interesting just to talk about life. But the sensationalism or the validity of one thing over another, there is no right or wrong.
Convincing ourselves is ultimately the biggest challenge.
Right, because we're human beings.
No, but my point, Sensei, was interesting, is that this idea of effectiveness can be applied to any martial art depending on how you set the rules.
We're not really talking about is it a valid martial art. We're only talking about it as being an effective martial art. And then all martial arts, if you talk to Bruce Lee or all those, they all say it comes down to the practitioner.
Yeah.
Right? Because how effective you are, there's a correlation between how mean you are.
Right.
The meaner you are, the higher, more effective your martial art is. The point of the martial arts is to
build your spirit.
Not just build your spirit, teach you how to become a true human being. It takes no training to choke someone to death, right? But that's that thing. You're trying to learn this thing to save not just your life, but save another person's life. So when you're trying to talk about effectiveness, this is effective, this is not effective. These techniques are real, these techniques are not real. What are we really talking about? We're talking about, I inside feel inadequate. I feel less than, I feel not good enough, I feel whatever, and these things shore me up so that I can walk in that place and not feel this way. You think?
So, Sensei, I think that's all true. So, but how do we get that, kind of circling back to the beginner who's here a month or even less, couple weeks? How to everything you're talking about is really core to Aikido. It's core to the way you teach, the way that the junior instructors teach here. But how does that get communicated to maybe make it 2 months? The beginners who's been here 2 months, who's diligently coming to class, copying, doing what they're supposed to be doing, but isn't hearing anyone say that.
Well, but that's that thing, right? Like this place where it becomes, you either are good enough to defend yourself or you don't care. It's like this. It comes up to a point, right? And at that point, you don't really care anymore. Like, I don't care. If someone says like, oh, Aikido, someone drove by and just said like, Aikido sucks.
No, but I mean,
right?
What I mean is the spirit behind the lesson. I mean, are these things that a young student, not young in terms of age, but a nascent student, a new student, are these the kind of things that they should get by staying after class and talking to senior students, or just don't even worry about it?
It's not something that they can pick up. It's because again, it's verbal judo. It's being able to say, oh no, this thing is right, this thing's wrong, this is right or wrong, but you have to get it out of your system that you need to convince others. This dojo at Aikido Center in Los Angeles, under Kensho Furuya, we learned Aikido as first and foremost as a martial art. Right. Right. And so I didn't have to really
worry about that.
It's not that I didn't really have to worry about that. Furuya Sensei was such a prolific teacher that you could kind of believe in him. You go, yeah, man. You go, look at this dude, man. He's super overweight, but dude, look how he moves. Oh my God, his understanding of Aikido. Oh my gosh, his understanding of philosophy.
Right.
Oh my gosh, like, there's no way that you could just go, you know, Aikido's not effective, not real.
Right.
You know, unfortunately for my students, they don't have that in me where they can just, that I'm such a prolific martial artist that they can just believe in me. So I never had to worry that Aikido wasn't real or effective.
Right.
So to give someone a way to explain to people that Aikido is effective without fighting them is really hard. Because again, if I fight you, see that here's the catch-22. You don't believe Aikido's real. I fight you to show Aikido's real, but in fighting you,
hurt them.
No, in fighting them, I show you that Aikido is not real. Because the philosophy of Aikido is such that violence on any level is not Aikido, right? Because I needed to show you that's violence in my heart that makes me come out to show you, look, Aikido is effective. But then again, if I have to show you, that's violence. And that is against the philosophy of Aikido, because the philosophy of Aikido is such that the only victory is the victory over yourself.
Right.
And so if I have to convince you, then I'm competing with you, and then I'm trying to best you and show you. And what do you think? I'm gonna, even if I beat them up, would they show up the next day for class? No. In Aikido, the mental, emotional, and the physical, they rise like this.
Right.
In like other martial arts, especially striking, the physical rises like this, and then when it gets towards its apex, the mental, emotional, physical start to move in.
Right.
Right. And so Aikido, they say Aikido begins where most martial arts end.
And you mentioned Steven Seagal, is that we're human beings, when it comes to convincing people, we're caught up in marketing.
The general public can't understand the difference between demonstration Aikido and teaching and learning Aikido. What most people see on the internet is demonstration Aikido. What people don't understand is that in order for someone to break fall, they need to have a solid base, of stable base, in order to break fall from.
Right.
That means you didn't break their balance if they have that. Doing a break fall is to make the other person look good and to save your head from getting a head injury.
Right.
But that's not real. So a person who is demonstrating Aikido in a high level is demonstrating their myo. Myo is your level of enlightenment, to where you break shu-ha-ri, and then you break the form. You're showing your high level of enlightenment. In the old days, they drove your head into the ground.
Right.
Right. You locked it, broke it, tried to kill him.
Right.
But today we lock it, pin them, throw them, let them out of it. But in the old days, you locked it, you broke it, you threw them, you killed them.
Right.
But today we don't do that. We don't drive someone's head for shihonage into the ground. But in the old days they did, right? In the old days they use a lot of atemi. But then the thing is that if you use atemi, then there's still some remnants of violence left over inside of you. So that's why a lot of Aikido dojos have
evolved out of it.
Evolved out of atemi, even Homo dojo. But if you look at other martial arts, they can't get away from it, right? Because it works, it's effective. So that's the thing. Like, if we come back to this idea of what is effective and not effective, how can we explain it to others? You just can't. You, the practitioner, the practitioner must believe in it.
So talking about consuming, this is, I think, a really interesting point. So the beginner says, I watched Christian Tissier do Iriminage, Ura style, which is sort of the gold standard for us. And they're doing it like this, and he's floating, and he's like, I can't do that. And you're like, no, that's demonstration version.
Yeah.
The form version number 1, where you hear and you break the balance, turn your hips, throw. And you're like, I don't ever see anyone do it that way. How do we educate people that what they're seeing is something that will take a long time to get to, and that, or you don't?
Well, you can't. You can't really convince anyone that Aikido is real, effective. It's really just you. You must believe. And if you believe, it doesn't matter what anyone else believes. They want to.